Hi, thanks for stopping by to check out my latest video. I wanted to just mention some news I got in my email program just tonight, and it's about render.com. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you may have seen that I use render.com and I do pay for their services. And so in this video here of mine, I'm talking about setting up and using Render, and you'll see it mentioned in some of my other videos also. So this is the part 2 of the chat with PDF files, where I have a security system and several other things related to backend services. So Render has been really great. It's a more simplified cloud hosting environment. I've used many different providers such as Netlify and Pocketbase, Heroku, Azure, and others. And Render, to me, is really at the top. It's really easy to use and has some really great features. And some, like setting up more simple databases that can scale if you do research on like SQLite databases. They can do thousands of transactions per second hosted on like a render disk. So there's just so many great things about Render's services. If you haven't used them before, you may want to give it a try. So I just wanted to mention here that they received a $50 million Series B funding, and that was just reported as of 6/21, or well, it looks like 6/20, June 20th. So, and you can see the name of the company that led the funding with enthusiastic participation from existing investors, Addition, General Catalyst, and the South Park Commons Fund. So let's see what else they have to say here. Render takes your infrastructure problems away and gives you battle-tested, powerful, and cost-effective cloud with an outstanding developer experience. And I have found that to be true when using their services. Focus on building your apps, shipping fast, and delighting your customers, and leave your cloud infrastructure to us. They've grown quite a bit since launching at TechCrunch Disrupt in 2019. Websites and workloads running on Render now serve over 1 billion visits every month. Well over 500,000 developers and teams are on the platform. They range from promising early-stage startups like Socket to venture-backed unicorns like Watershed. Building on Render has been a superpower for Watershed. It lets us focus on what matters most, delighting our customers rather than managing our infrastructure. Our engineers can ship features to customers in hours or days instead of weeks or months. Every startup should start on Render. And as I said, I've found it to be really nice to work with, and their support has been really good too. When I had a few questions as I was first using their services, they were very helpful. And in comparing it to like Amazon or AWS, which are great services, but they're way more complicated and there's just more involved, the render.com website and interface and admin tools are just really focused and really straightforward to use. So they go on to say here that they offer the promise of a powerful, flexible, and intuitive cloud experience for software developers and teams of all skill levels and sizes. Fulfilling this promise means expanding platform functionality rapidly, which is exactly how we'll use the new investment. We're growing the team, see open roles, so they have new careers that are being spawned by this also. And I also noticed of one other thing I was going to point out besides this exciting news for their company is they're talking about projects, and that was just released today. This news about projects and how they make it easier for you and your team to collaborate on apps. organize all of the services associated with an app in a project, and further group services by environment, staging, production, etc. to make building with your team easier and more streamlined. And they go on to mention here, Render began with a simple question: how do we make it easier for developers to run code in the cloud? Every day, developers toil with overly complicated cloud configurations that are hard to maintain. As developers, you know you have less time to think about what you're building if you also need to handle the intimidating complexity of public cloud offerings. Teams are increasingly aware of the cost of managing infrastructure and are choosing Render instead. While it was easy to set up an app with one or two services like a database and a server, teams shared that they needed help managing apps on Render with many services. Our overview page featured a long list of services associated with a team or account. We didn't have a way for teams to express how their services were related or organized them by environment. Today, Render is announcing our first launch to improve the development team experience: projects. Projects have two essential functions. First, developers can group their services related to an app together. Say you've built an app for recruiting on Render. You can now organize your servers, your Redis job queue, database, cron jobs, and other services you've configured to support your app together in a project. So here you can see at the top, like they have a Let's Recruit project, an admin dashboard, or ungroup services. And second, projects help developers organize their services into environments. As teams grow on Render, they see them start to create development and staging deployments. Previously, naming was the only way to distinguish between a development or staging service. Developers appended staging or STG to the end of a service's name. Now, projects have a built-in affordance to group services by environment, making it easier for teams to ensure they deploy to the right services when testing changes. So here's their Let's Recruit project, and you can see then the production environment with the available resources and the staging environment with those available resources. And lastly, projects represent a paradigm shift in how apps are developed, tested, and deployed on Render. Allowing developers to group services unlocks new possibilities for how teams build their apps throughout the development lifecycle. We will continue to release new capabilities for projects over the next year, and we can't wait to share what we have in store. Projects are now available for all developers on the team plan or higher. We're building Render so that teams like yours can collaborate better, so reach out and let us know how we can improve projects. And that was from Sean Moore, an engineer at Render. And if you weren't aware, it looks like on February 14th, Render achieved the SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. So that's exciting news also. Well, I just wanted to point this exciting news out about their new $50 million Series B funding. It's really going to help them, I know, become a even better company and more features, and just be able to get your work done more easily than using some other cloud hosting services. So give it a look, give it a try if you've never used it before, and I think you'll really like it. And again, I appreciate you stopping by to watch my video, and I'll be talking to you soon in another video.
If you like this channel, please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content.